So back with another match replay. Um, this one is kind of interesting. Not because of any like super great plays, but just because it's an archetype that is not super common, but you probably should at least have an idea of how to play against. So I thought that a video with it would be potentially worthwhile. So let's get right into it. So I win the die roll, which is good. I like that. And this hand is pretty good. It's not like super thrilling, but it is a easy turn 3 kill with no, if your opponent doesn't give you any disruption. So I keep this, and I lead off just by, let's see, my opponent kept 7 as well, so I lead off with just polluted delta and pass, which is fine. And I'm just going to hit play here and let my opponent go through the motions because they are on Belcher. So if I'm dead here, I'm just dead, that's fine. If they cast like a Belcher or something, I would probably brainstorm in response to pretend that I'm looking for a Force of Will. But they just cast Empty. So Empty is actually not going to be fast enough to kill me. More or less. So I fetch my land, I play out my bad lands, and I just pass again. And so they're going to hit me for 12. I'm going to go down to 7. And then I'm going to get to look at 5 piles with Limdual's Vault. The reason it's 5 is because with 7 life left, I need to have 2 life left to Doomsday. I theoretically could look at like another one and use Experimental Frenzy and try to like hit Collective Brutality to gain a little life and then Doomsday, so it's not completely impossible that I could look at another pile, but basically it's 5. And so 5, and basically I'll get to see 25 cards, so if there's not a Doomsday in the top half of my deck, I lose. And so I'm just going to let things play out here. So they attack with everything, of course. I Limdual's Vault, no Doomsday, no Doomsday, no Doomsday, it's getting a little hairy, no Doomsday. Oh good, there's a Doomsday, okay. Right on time. I would have gotten to look at one more set of 5, but so I found the Doomsday, and we're going to see something a little interesting here, which is that, let's see, when I duress them, they actually had a Belcher in their hand. I'm not sure if they drew this Belcher or if they had the Belcher in hand and chose to empty instead, which for them, choosing to empty when I was potentially representing counter magic was definitely the right play. But it is just interesting to note that you can sometimes get the Belcher player to like play differently. Obviously, you'd have to know what they were on, which I didn't at the time. I just played land go, but it still is something worth keeping in mind on the rare occasion that the Belcher player doesn't try to do something on turn 1. But anyway, that's pretty much it. So I just do a basic Doomsday Jace pile. Act and Impulse, 2 LEDs, Jace, and some card that doesn't matter. And that's how that pile played out, and it's probably going to do the wrong order of things, so it looks like it's working this time. I wonder how it chooses when it's going to work and when it doesn't. But anyway, so there's the Doomsday kill. So we'll go to Game 2. Now, in Game 2 against Belcher, or games on the draw against Belcher are interesting, because you can't really do anything on turn 1. Typically, so how I side for Belcher is I bring in the 2 Flusterstorms and I bring in 2 Echoing Truth. Echoing Truth is basically for Goblin tokens, or occasionally if they drop a Belcher but don't have the mana to activate it. And Echoing Truth, I mean, Flusterstorm is pretty obviously for stopping their spells. But none of that does anything before you get to play a land. So on the draw, I'm much more inclined to keep any semi-functional hand, because if you look at this hand, like, it doesn't do anything. But they're going to keep a hand that does something, or they're going to mull low and not to have anything, and then you'll get extra turns to try and interact. And if they make Goblin tokens, this hand is going to be much better positioned to find an Echoing Truth and get rid of the Goblin tokens than a hand with like Duresses would be, because duresses are going to be no good after the goblin tokens come down. So just something to think about, that this kind of hand is probably better suited to a game on the draw against Belcher, even though it looks like it does nothing against Belcher. It actually is. It does more against, like, obviously, literally having Echoing Truth in your hand would be better. I just don't think it's reasonable to mull a functional hand, because this hand is better suited to beating the beatable Belcher hands than a random 6 probably is, at least in my opinion. So anyway, I keep this, and they just belch. Or actually, no, they didn't just belch the fuck out of me. They end up belching the fuck out of me, but it's substantially more impressive than that. They fucking go ham. So get to watch Diminishing Returns, which I've never been on the receiving end of. And then another draw 7. And then Belcher. And I'm dead. Great. So, on to game 3. Let's see. So I choose to play first, of course. And this hand is really great. We have Brainstorm for turn 2, Ritual for when I try to go off, and then I have Thoughtseize that I can Thoughtseize on turn 1, and I'll also be able to hold up Flusterstorm on turn 1. So this hand is perfect. And definitely going to keep it. There we go. So they mull to 6. So I start with the Scalding Tarn, and I crack for Underground Sea, and I Thoughtseize. And their hand is kind of interesting. So they have Veil of Summer. They only have the Belcher for business. And if you look, their business is actually, or their hand is kind of weak. It has Veil of Summer. It makes exactly 4 mana and only leaves 1 permanent mana source left over. So even if they cast the Belcher, they would be in not the best spot. So there is some incentive to cast, or to take. So one line of play would be take Veil of Summer, play Lotus Petal, hold up Flusterstorm, and then fluster them if they try to land grant. Fluster the land grant. I elected to take the Belcher here, and my reasoning for that was, if I take the Belcher, now they have to draw business and enough mana to actually do something with that business. And so, like, sure, they have Veil of Summer, but I don't know. I felt like my chances. I felt like it was more likely that I would be able to put something together before they were able to put something together, and I would be able to find more discard or more counter magic, and that I might have the option to fluster something where they didn't have the option to Veil of Summer because their mana is pretty constrained, or that casting Veil of Summer would prevent them from being able to go off because their mana is constrained. So it's a little bit riskier, but we'll see how it plays out. I'm not sure it's correct. But I take the Belcher, and I also elect not to play the Lotus Petal here, which may have been wrong. It might have been better to just have the protection up, just in case. But I suppose on the other hand, it does kind of play out, or maybe make them think that I don't have anything like that. So they land grant. I get to see what they drew for turn, and it looks like it was this Desperate Ritual. So now they can play Taiga, and they just pass. And here we have an interesting interaction. So I play out my Volcanic Island and pass, and if you think, look here, I'm going to be able to Limdual's Vault into, and hopefully make a pile. Like, I have 51 cards left in my deck, so I'll be able to merge 1 card into a pile, like add, kind of customize my pile by 1 card. And so I'm hoping I can, like, play, basically set up like Frenzy, Doomsday, LED, or something like that in a pile. But anyway, so they actually, let's see. so they draw for turn, and surprise, it's Reforge the Soul. They miracle Reforge the Soul, and they have an Elvish Spirit Guide in hand so that they can actually pay that cost. Now, I have a Flusterstorm, so I'm going to Flusterstorm this, and they don't have another Spirit Guide or anything, any mana to pay for the Flusterstorm or to Veil of Summer. If they played out their Lotus Petal last turn, they would be able to Veil of Summer, but they were keeping it for Storm Count, I'm sure. So they go for the Reforge the Soul, and I fluster it. Now, arguably, if I had played my Lotus Petal here, I would be able to Limdal's Vault this turn and then still try and go off the way I proposed. But I was not expecting to need to do this. So that might have been a mistake on my part. I might have been able to win a turn sooner. Because now I'm in a little bit of an awkward spot where I have 50 cards left in my deck. And so since it's divisible by 5, I can't customize my Limdal's Vault piles at all. And I draw another Limdal's Vault. So this time I play out my Lotus Petal. Probably because I realized it was a little bit of a mistake last time not to. And I just pass the turn. And so now I'm kind of just hoping that they don't have anything. It is worth noting that I was correct in my assessment that I would be able to draw out of it faster than they did. So anyway, I Limdal's Vault here, and I'm just going to hit play, I think. So I realize that there's 50 cards in my deck, and that none of these are going to really work. So it basically is finding, I can try to find either like LED, Frenzy, Doomsday in one pile, or if I can find Doomsday, an LED, and another cantrip in one pile, that'll also kill. So that one, here we go. So this is the pile. These 3 cards, basically I'll draw Doomsday, or draw one of these 3, brainstorm into the other 2, put back whatever 3rd card I draw, and Limdal's Vault, and then I'll have Dark Writ, cantrip, Doomsday, LED in hand. And just be able to kill with a simple Doomsday pile. So that's exactly what happens. Brainstorm. So one good thing to remember with Limdal's Vault is to not kind of tunnel vision on setting up frenzies, because you don't always need to, and Brainstorm can let you get multiple cards out of your pile, so you can sometimes set up a Doomsday kill. So anyway, they cast Veil of Summer, but it didn't matter here because I'm not targeting them at all. So yeah, the playback crashed because it put the cards in the wrong order for whatever reason. But anyway, that was just a basic Jace pile. So yeah, kind of, I think the things to learn from this is that you're operating kind of on very tight margins in this matchup. And like I said, like, it's not one that you are going to face very often, and it's not one you should feel particularly bad about losing, because sometimes they just get you. But game 1, if you don't know what you're up against, you can still often beat and empty the Warrens. You get 2 turns to try and beat empty the Warrens. And if you're on the play, you actually have 3 turns to try and beat empty the Warrens. On the draw, you're better off keeping hands that function, like hands that execute your game plan, rather than hands that try to disrupt them, because you're probably not going to have the opportunity to disrupt them if they actually just kill you. And then in games on the draw where you know what you're up against, you just need disruption. And usually Belcher will fold to 1 discard spell, or fold to 1 discard spell. Meaning it'll buy you enough time to find more disruption. Having multiple pieces of disruption in your opening hand is good. And you just got to think about what to take that disrupts them the most. And that's really all there is to it.